everyone, welcome back. I'm Dave Coonan from the Malverne Community Theatre here with the MCT players, back again with another classic radio play. Tonight we switch gears and we go back again to something a little more mysterious, a little scary, ominous. This is called The Visitor, originally aired in 1947, and we're here to give you a complete script as it aired back then. Enjoy.
Suspense!
At the world-famous Waldorf Astoria, where luxury is legend and hospitality is a high art, the discriminating clientele is offered a full selection of C-R-E-S-T-A, B-L-A-N-C-A, Cresta Blanca. That's Cresta Blanca. In serving magnificent Cresta Blanca wines, the Waldorf preserves a tradition for pleasing the palates of luxury-wise world travelers. Such choice selection is distinguished proof that when you pour proud Cresta Blanca wines, you and your guests enjoy the best. Shensley's Cresta Blanca Wine Company, Livermore, California.
And now Shenley brings you radio's outstanding theater of thrills. Suspense! Presented by Roma Wines. That's R-O-M-A, Roma Wines, America's favorite wines. Tonight, by popular request, we bring back the MCT players in a play which was first presented on Suspense 2.5 years ago and was the subject of considerable comments. The MCT players in The Visit.
It was around 2 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon. I was right in my usual groove, Counterman, and Al's Coffee Pot, Route 22 out of Baltimore. Not a bad job for a green guy, $18 a week and my meals. But I was aiming to be a short-order cook when I really got the hang of things. Of course, I'd only been in the diner a couple of months. Well, as I say, it's the usual afternoon. Not especially busy, but busy enough.
Hey, no kidding, Mac. Where's our Western sandwiches?
Oh, here you are. What do you have, mister?
Oh, ham on rye and a cup of coffee, bud.
Coming right up. Ham on rye and draw one.
Look, kid, I'd like to talk to you.
Yeah? What about?
Have you got a minute?
Yeah, I guess so. Al, take the counter, will ya? I'm gonna have some coffee. So, what's on your mind, mister?
Look, can we go in here?
Yeah.
I've been looking for a long time for someone who looks like you.
Yeah?
Your name could be Bud Owen, couldn't it?
Well, why should it? They call me Bill Duncan around here.
That's not what I asked.
So?
Well, I'm looking for a boy named Bud Owen.
For what?
Disappeared from his home about 3 years ago. Boy from my town. He'd be about your age now, about 18.
17.
Well, that'll do. Well, his folks had just been worried sick about him. Everybody else gave him up for dead. And then I heard you were working here, Bud.
Yeah? Who told you?
Oh, no one told me. I got a note, anonymous. You didn't write it, did you?
No, I didn't write it.
You know, I think I'd have recognized you anyway. You're a lot taller, of course, and you look older, Bud.
Well, anyone would, wouldn't they?
Same ears, though.
Call them wings.
Ah, that's a good one. You remember who I am, of course. Mac Burrell. Used to be the chief of police.
Pleased to meet you again, Mr. Burrell.
Well, Bud Owen. A lot of know-it-alls are sure gonna be surprised.
Surprised? At what?
Why, to see you. Edgerton is certain to a man that you were drowned 3 years ago off White's Pier. And when they see you, boy, I can't wait.
I was drowned, huh?
Yeah.
Hey, look, Mr. Burrell, just what is your proposition?
Well, bud, I want you to come home again. With me.
Oh,
Of course, things have changed in Edgerton these 3 years, but not too much. And if you take it easy and if you have a friend to help you over the rough spots, you'll feel right back at home in no time.
I see.
Working in a diner. Why, you're depriving yourself of everything a boy could want. A good home, lovely parents, wealthy parents.
Yeah, you make it sound kind of nice, Mr. Burrell. But what about you?
Why, Bud, didn't you know that your father's offered a $10,000 reward for anyone who finds you?
No, I didn't know that.
$10,000. Don't you think you ought to come home?
Maybe I should.
And think of your folks. Think of how your poor mother has suffered. Think how happy it'd make them.
Uh-huh. Well, Mr. Burrell, if you really think it'll be all right for me to come home, I guess.
Sure it will. Oh, it may be a little tough at first. All the excitement, people staring at you, but that won't last long. Oh, well, you got to expect some excitement.
Yeah, I suppose it was an event, having a hometown boy drown.
A drowned boy? Why, they thought you were murdered.
After I talked to Mr. Burrell for an hour or so, the whole thing sounded pretty darn good. I quit my job at Al Coffey's Pot the next afternoon and met Mr. Burrell at the station. We took the 5 o'clock train for Edgerton. On the way, Mr. Burrell gave me the lowdown on what's been going on downtown for 3 years. How the town thought I was murdered, and my mother and David Cunningham, my stepfather, just wouldn't give up that I was still alive. He told me how my mother hadn't changed anything in my room. She was sure I'd come back, although she bought new stuff for the rest of the house, new rugs, a couch, things like that. Mr. Burrell described it so plain I could almost see it. Well, by the time we got into Edgerton, I was feeling pretty sad for my mother. And when I stood on the dark front porch with Mr. Burrell, it was a peach of a warm summer night. Though if I could make her happy, even if it was tough for me, it was worth a try.
Well, brace yourself, youngster. This is it.
Yeah, sure. I'm okay, Mr. Burrell.
Is that you, Burrell?
Yeah, and look who's with me.
Oh, Bud.
Hello, Father.
Come in, Bud. Come in. Here, let me take your suitcase. Here's your mother, Bud.
Oh, hello, Mother.
Oh, Bud.
Judith, this time it's really Bud. He's come back to us.
Oh, Bud.
It's all right, darling. It's all right now.
My big baby. You're so tall I can hardly kiss you.
Come, Judith, let's go into the living room. Come along, Burrell.
Yes.
I always knew I'd be silly when you came back. Here, let me push your hair down. Now you look more like my Bud.
Gosh, I wouldn't have recognized this room. Isn't that a new couch?
Yes, and the rugs and the drapes.
Drapes.
I don't know how we'll ever be able to thank you, Burrell.
Why, seeing Judith happy is reward enough.
Yes, that reminds me. Well, drop into my office tomorrow and I'll take care of that other, more tangible reward.
Mother, I don't know where to begin. I mean, to tell you how sorry I am.
Oh, don't tell me anything, darling. Nothing matters except that you're back.
That's the spirit, Judith. That's the spirit.
Goodness, your right hand, bud. It's all bandaged.
Oh, yeah, that's nothing much. I burned it working at the diner. It's really nothing.
Oh, darling.
Well, folks, it's been a long day for an old man. I guess I'll run along.
Right away, Mr. Burrell? Well, I mean, you just got here.
Oh, you'll be seeing plenty of me, bud. Right now, you should be wanting to get acquainted with your folks again.
Yeah.
I'll see you tomorrow, Dave.
Oh, yeah, yes, of course. Good night.
Good night.
Well, have you noticed, Judith, how deep Bud's voice is now?
Why, yes. It was just a little pipe when he left. But it was beginning to break, wasn't it, Bud?
Gosh, I guess so. I sure must have sounded awful.
And he shaves, David. Every day, Snooky?
Well, I mean, gosh, not quite.
No, please, David. I don't think that's so funny.
Well, I can't help it.
Why, that sounds like Ellen. Isn't that nice? Let her in, David.
Oh, certainly. Sure.
Ellen Woods?
Why, who else, Bud?
Does she still live next door?
Of course. The Woods have always lived there. Ellen, dear, we have such a surprise.
Oh my word, Angel! This is simply fabulous. Let me kiss you, you big lug.
Hey, ouch, take it easy.
Oh, Bud, you're just gigantic. A regular beanpole. Oh, Bud, I can't wait for you to see Joe.
Joe?
I called him just as soon as I heard. He's coming over here. It's all right, Mrs. Cunningham?
Oh, of course, Ellen.
Sure.
I'd forgotten. It'll mean so much to Joe. You know about Joe, Bud.
Yeah, Mr. Burrell told me. I didn't know before.
This town's got a lot to make up to that young man.
My folks wouldn't let me see Joe, Bud.
Yeah.
Well, naturally they thought that. After all, Joe was the last person who saw you and then, well, he admitted you'd quarreled.
But your mother and I never had a moment's doubt, Bud.
Oh, no.
And I'm thankful for that.
There, that's Joe. That's Joe now. Joe, it's true. Bud's here.
Ellen phoned. I ran all the way. She said that you would be here.
Yeah. Joe, it's me.
Yeah, I guess it is.
Well, pal, I hear I owe you an apology or something.
Skip it, pal.
Now, Joe, we know how hard it's been for you. Only now it's over.
It didn't matter, Mrs. Cunningham. I've learned to put up with a lot.
Judith, dear, let's go upstairs. Let's give the young folks a chance to be by themselves.
All right, David. But don't stay up too long, Bud.
No.
You'll need lots of sleep.
I won't, Mother.
And don't forget to turn off the lights.
Okay.
Good night, children.
Good night.
Good night.
Well, what do we do? Cut a rug or chew the fat?
Suit yourself.
Joe, don't talk that way to Bud. You might remember he's my friend, and he certainly was yours.
Yeah, I guess he was.
Now, look, Joe, I can see you're sore at me, but don't take it out on Ellen.
Kindly don't start messing between Ellen and me.
Joe, please.
Okay. Do I have to make a speech? So you're home now, Bud, and I'm the last one to kick. But when you toss it all off by saying you owe me an apology or something. Well, maybe it's not easy to remember we were friends.
Well, I didn't know what to say.
I know I tried to remember we were friends when the whole town was sure I killed you. And I tried to remember it when the draft board listed me as undesirable because they thought I was guilty.
Yeah, but I didn't
I
know
even
that.
tried to remember we were friends when for 3 years people crossed the street so they wouldn't have to speak to me. And people got up and walked out of the room when I came in, and when I even made a mention of everything.
Gosh, Joe, I didn't realize that. I'm sorry, Joe, honest.
Joe, you should be the first one to walk around town with Bud. Right tomorrow morning. If you both like it, I'll go with you.
If it's all right with Bud.
Is it? Boy, I'm gonna need company.
Then it's a date, huh?
No kidding, Bud? I'm glad you're home, fella. No hard feelings?
Gosh, no, Joe.
So long, Bud.
Bye, Bud.
So long.
Bud,
Yes, Mother?
are you coming up to bed now, dear?
Yeah, I might as well.
You knew Bud about Trixie.
Trixie?
Do you realize you've never even asked about her?
Oh, Trixie. Yeah, that's right, I didn't.
After all, she was your dog. And you know what they say about a boy and his dog. Ah, poor thing. When you didn't come back, she just wandered off.
Oh, gee, that's tough. All right.
And you didn't even ask about her. Oh, but I guess you can't be expected to remember everything.
No, I guess I can't remember everything. My mother kissed me goodnight. I went upstairs to my room. It was just like Mr. Burrell told me it would be. Everything seemed to have gone all right so far. I undressed, turned out the light, but before I got into bed, I locked the door, just in case.
For Suspense, Roma Wines are bringing you the MCT Players in The Visitor. Roma Wines' presentation tonight in radio's outstanding theater of thrills, Suspense.
Suspense, radio's outstanding theater of thrills, is presented by Roma. That's R-O-M-A. Those better tasting Roma wines. Every day, more and more hostesses are discovering a simple secret for successful entertaining. Whenever guests are invited or just drop in unexpectedly, welcome them with a fine Roma California wine such as glorious golden amber Roma sherry, ruby red Roma port, or mellow Roma muscati. And when you serve these delicious Roma wines with cheese, fruit, or nuts, the most informal get-together becomes a delightful party. These Roma wines are a treat at dessert time. To top off the dinner, too, if you are planning to entertain this weekend, be sure to have better tasting Roma sherry, Roma port, and Roma muscatel on hand. Then you'll be sure of pleasing everybody because Roma wines are America's favorite wines.
And now, Roma Wines brings you back to a Hollywood soundstage, the MCT Players, in The Visitor, a play well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Gosh, I guess I'm kind of late for breakfast.
Oh, that's all right, darling. We know you needed sleep.
Sit right in your old place, Bud.
Yeah, sure.
Your mother and I have been mooning over old pictures of you, son.
Yes, really, Bud, except for the ears and something around the eyes. You've changed so that I can hardly recognize you. Now look, here's the last picture of you before you went away. Why, it's almost frightening the way you've grown.
Oh, Judith, darling, you wouldn't want the boy to be a midget, would you?
Oh, well, no.
Sure, he's taller, but look at his hair, the way he stands.
Yeah, I guess I was a goon. You You should have been glad to get rid of me.
Oh, no.
And look, Bud, what else I found?
What?
All your school compositions from the first grade on. Here's one you wrote on Alexander the Great.
Ouch. Mother, don't be so careless with those things or I'll die blushing.
Why, Bud, I think it was very good for your age. You were barely 14 when you wrote it. See? It's marked B, so it can't be too terrible.
Your least little scribble is a great thing to your mother.
Oh, of course.
Well, I'd better get off to the office. Drop in to see me if you have time, Bud.
Mother, I'll do that.
Good. Goodbye, Judith, darling. I'll be home for dinner.
Goodbye, David. How about some hot coffee, Bud?
Yeah, thanks.
There, Snooky. Bud, there's something important I want to discuss with you. It's about my will.
Your will?
You know how your father, well, David, is about my money, Bud. He never wanted to touch it or even have me put him in my will. He's so proud about things like that, and I do have so much more than he ever will.
Well, sure, I remember. How much money is it anyway?
Why? You know, Bud. There's about $150,000 your grandfather left.
Yeah?
Then there were the 4 houses on Elm Street that Aunt Caroline left, and the income from them. I haven't used any of it, so it amounts to quite a lot by now.
Gosh, yes, it must, at that.
Well, after you left, even though David didn't want me to, I changed the will, leaving everything to him.
Why, sure, that sounds fine to me.
Ah, yes. But now you're back. I think the best thing would be to just turn it all over to you now. Set up a trust fund. You could use the income when you start to college, and later maybe you'd want to set yourself up in some kind of business. And I know it'll please David.
But Mother, gee whiz, it's swell of you, but don't you think you should wait?
Wait for what, darling?
Well, until you know me better.
What?
I mean, gosh, I wouldn't know what to do with all that money, and maybe I'd mess things up.
Oh, silly. The bank takes care of everything. It always has for me. Now, all you have to do is sign these papers here.
Sign? But I can't, Mother. You see, my hand, it's all bandaged, and it's, you know.
Oh, isn't that a shame? I forgot you couldn't write.
It'll be all right in a couple of days, so I can take the bandage off.
Oh, somebody's whistling for you, Bud. My, that sounds like old times.
Oh, it's Ellen and Joe. They're gonna take me out and show me around the town. I guess I'll have to face the music.
You know you'll love it. You're going to be a regular hero.
Yeah, but I don't feel much like a hero.
Hey, Bud Owen, wait.
Now you're in for it, Bud.
Oh, Bud, you're really real, and you've grown but divine.
Hey, you're joking me.
Oh, I've just been telling everybody you're back. It's too sensational. It's like having a new boy in town, and boy, do we need them.
Well, gosh, I shouldn't think you'd have any trouble. Why, you're cuter than ever.
Listen to him. He's got a line. Gee, he sends me. Isn't that something?
Bud, the best thing you ever called her before was buzzard egg.
Well, gosh, I called her something besides that once in a while.
Oh, you did call her Mary Louise.
Of course I called her that. Gee, it's swell to see you, Mary Louise.
Bud Owen, you bad boy. Are you gonna recognize me or aren't ya?
Oh, gee, it's good to see you. How are you anyway?
Well, you're not too grown up to kiss old Mrs. Callahan the way you always did.
Oh, I'll say I'm not, Mrs. Callahan. Here.
Why? Oh, Well, now that's better. I heated enough bottles for you and washed enough of your diapers too, so don't let me catch you putting on airs.
Oh, no, ma'am, I won't.
Well, goodbye for now.
Goodbye.
What's the matter? Didn't you recognize her?
Oh, Mrs. Callahan? Well, of course I did.
Well, then why didn't you call her what you always used to? Couldn't you see she was sore?
Well, yes, I did.
Bud, you used to call her Aunt Cecil.
Well, 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 I couldn't believe it, but I daren't refute the evidence of my senses. It's the Owen boy, Bud Owen.
Well, I'm glad to see you too, sir.
I just saw your mother. Heard you were back. She told me she was bringing you down to my office in a day or two.
Oh, yeah, she told me.
Yeah, your mother is 1 in a million, young man. She thinks only of your welfare. I hope you've learned to appreciate her.
Oh, yes, sir, I have.
Well, I just wanted to check on the news. And no nonsense, my boy. You do as your mother says.
Yeah, goodbye. What did he mean, no nonsense?
Don't you know?
Well, I guess so. Well, Mother told me this morning we had to go to the lawyer's office.
Oh, Bud.
I've been waiting for you to outsmart yourself, and this is it.
Well, I don't get it.
You sure don't, Bud.
Give him a chance, Joe.
Because it happens that's not Mr. Reedy the lawyer, but Dr. Sterling the dentist.
I talked fast and Ellen took my side, and we got Joe calmed down, but I knew he was going to watch me like a hawk from then on. That afternoon, Ellen, Joe, and Mary Louise got a really snazzy idea of going to the beach. My father knocked off work and drove us down, sort of to celebrate my homecoming. It was a really hot day, so when we got there, the others made a beeline for the water. But I didn't because of my bandaged hand. I stayed around the beach club near the pool. When it began to get dark, we all dressed and went down to the White restaurant for seafood dinner. Then we walked out on the pier, the same pier I was supposed to have been murdered. I remember I said something about taking the body back to where the X marks the spot, and everybody laughed.
Oh, Bud, really now?
Gee, isn't it heavenly out here?
Yeah, gee, the breeze is so swell.
Well, Bud, it looks like you and Joe are right back where you were 3 years ago.
Yeah, I guess so, Father.
This railing's just where we stood, isn't it? When you and I had our fight?
Yeah. Yes, about,
Hey, what's the phobia people have looking down from tall buildings? Gee, I get it looking down at the water from up here.
that shouldn't worry you, Ellen. You swim like a fish. Now me, I should really feel funny.
Well, you about ready to go home, children? I don't want Judith to worry.
Oh, yeah. All right, Mr. Cunningham.
It's been such a heavenly day.
Bud, wait a minute.
Come on, Joe.
Wait a minute. There are a couple of things I want to say.
Look, now, later, Joe, Ellen, and my father.
It'll only take a minute. First, about your not being able to swim.
But Joe, you knew about that. I haven't learned, that's why.
Sure, everybody knew Bud Owen couldn't swim. That's why when you disappeared, they thought I'd pushed you off the pier and you drowned.
Now, Joe, I don't get it. Can't you just let, bygones be bygones?
Bud Owen couldn't swim. But this afternoon, when you thought we were all at a good, safe distance, I walked up to the beach club looking for you, and I saw you swimming in the pool.
Yeah, I learned.
And your bandage was off. Well, start talking, Or do I do the talking to the cops?
Now listen, Joe, you gotta wait. You gotta give me time.
Now, don't get me wrong. No one else in this town should be gladder to have Bud Owen come back than me. After all, I've taken plenty because he disappeared. But rather than let Miss Cunningham be fooled, I'd rather...
Oh, that's what I mean, Joe. You gotta give me time to square things. Just a little time.
Well, you better move fast, brother.
Now, Joe, no matter what you think, I haven't hurt anybody.
Not yet.
And if you give me time, maybe nobody will get hurt. I went to Mr. Burrell the next morning and talked about everything. About how people were making cracks at him, about the $10,000 reward, and the whole mess. I knew things were moving awfully fast, and I told Mr. Burrell he had to help me. That night, when she finished her coffee, my mother said she was awfully tired. My father, David, saw her upstairs to bed. I looked out the window and saw Mr. Burrell's car pulled up to the curb in front of Ellen's house. I knew he was going to do everything he could. But by this time, I was scared. Well, at bedtime, my stepfather fixed up some sandwiches and we drank some milk. Then he came up to my room with me and sat down to talk.
Well, I see your mother's been changing your room around. It's not bad.
Yeah, I guess women like to fuss around and so forth.
That's a fact. There's no use opposing them.
I guess that's right.
By the way, what is your real name?
Bud Owen?
Yeah, you don't need to be afraid of me. I've protected you so far.
Why have you?
I asked you first. What's your real name?
Bud Owen.
You're stubborn, aren't you? You know, at first I thought you'd work this little scheme out all by yourself, or with Burrell, but there's someone else involved, isn't there?
What do you think?
What about that bandage?
Well,
Take it off. Well. Not even a scar. Huh? I don't suppose you mind writing with it now that it's healed?
no, I don't mind. Shall I write?
Well, suppose we take this little composition of yours on Alexander the Great. Here. Would you copy this sentence, say, on the top of page 3?
Sure, why not?
Mm-hmm. And to make it a fair comparison, write your name, Bud Owen.
Bud Owen. Here you are.
Huh. So she taught you Bud's handwriting, too.
Who did?
My wife. Do you think I didn't know what was going on? Every move she made gave her away. Why is she in such a rush to change her will?
I don't know why.
She thought she was being so smart, trying to pass you off, trying to trap me. But I was the one person who knew you weren't Bud.
Yeah? What makes you so sure I'm not Bud?
I know. Isn't that enough? I know.
I see. Well, don't you think we better get my mother in on this?
Yes. Yes, I think perhaps we'd better. She's asleep. You'll have to wake her.
Mother? Mother? Why she's... Mother! Oh. Oh, when I came to, I had an awful pain in the head. I was in my room on the bed, and Ellen and Joe and Mr. Burrell were there. For a minute, I didn't know what had happened. And then I remembered. Mother? Where's my mother?
She's all right, Bud. She's in the hospital. Why, he gave her enough of those sleeping pills to kill a horse. But she's all right now.
How do you feel, Bud?
All right, I guess.
Oh, it's a good thing you had us standing by tonight, son. Why, he had you trussed up like a turkey. He was gonna hang you.
Oh, gee, Mr. Burrell, he must have been crazy. I guess he wanted to get us both out of the way before Mother could change that will.
For crying out loud, Bud. Why didn't you let me in on this? I had thought that you were
Well,
so...
gee, I hated to do it, Joe, honest. But I had to. Somebody had to be the guinea pig.
It was my idea, Joe. I sent the note to Mr. Burrell. I really found Bud in the hash house.
Yeah, but if you'd have let me know, I could have done something.
We knew that if Bud could fool you, if you thought he was a phony, he could fool everybody, even David Cunningham.
Yeah, you see, Joe, for 3 years I suspected that guy. He pushed me off the pier that night when I was only a kid. But I knew I was a kid, and I knew it was his word against mine. So I ran away. I kept putting off coming here, but I swore that someday I'd trap him. Tonight, I did. Because when he said he knew I wasn't Bud Owen, I knew he thought he'd kill me.
You took one whale of a chance tonight, Bud. He had you framed pretty. Another half hour and we'd have found you mother dead, you strung up, and that suicide note you wrote propped up on the dresser.
Suicide note? Well, I just copied a sentence out of the old composition, something about Alexander the Great.
Alexander the Great? Well, listen to this. It is terrible what awful crimes are done for greed and ambition. Signed, Bud Owen.
Oh, sure, we'll see. I was writing... Wait, what? I signed that. Holy... Well, that's about all. I didn't know how my mother would take it. Having my stepfather turn out to be such a heel. Once he got over the dope he slipped her, she was fine. I was happy as a lark over me. As happy as a lark over me. And Joe and Ellen, they got married quick. Mary Louise and I are going together now. And I've been playing hard to get, but gee, she could see through me in a minute. I guess I can never be anybody's fool.
Suspense.
And The Visitor, starring Donald O'Connor. Presented for your enjoyment by Roma Wines. That's R-O-M-A. Roma Wines, America's largest selling wines. For a wine to give great enjoyment, it must have great quality. And that's precisely what you enjoy in better tasting Roma wine. The famous goodness of Roma wine stems from choicest California grapes, gently pressed, that with age-old skills in America's greatest winemaking resources, Roma master vineyards guide this great treasure unhurriedly to taste perfection. Finer, better tasting Roma wines are laid with mellow Roma wines of years before, and from these, the world's greatest reserves of fine wines. Roma later selects for your pleasure. So whenever you order wine, remember this: you're sure of better taste at moderate price when you ask for Roma. That's R-O-M-A. Roma wines, enjoyed by more Americans than any other wine.
Tonight's suspense play, The Visitor, is from the novel by Carl Randall and Leanne Zugsmith. Next week, same time, you'll hear another internet audio extravaganza. This is the MCT, the Malverne Community Theatre Players.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.